Hey guys, welcome back to another album review. Today I'm going to be talking about Red's newest album that just dropped today called Gone. And they just announced this album last month, so it's kind of a surprise to all of us. I'm still kind of in shock that it's even here already, you know. They've dropped 3 singles from this album, and I have listened to those, and I did end up listening to AI, before the album came out, but other than that, I went in not really knowing how any of the songs sounded. I only listened to 3 of the previews they uploaded because they teased 30 seconds of each song off of this album. I wanted it to be more of a surprise, and it sure was a surprise, let me just say that. I will be reviewing the standard edition of this album, which only has 10 tracks on it, but I will briefly talk about the 2 tracks that appear on the deluxe edition, which are tracks 11 and 12. And then the rest on the deluxe edition are just remixes, which I don't care about, so let's get into track 1, which is Step Inside the Violence. I'm pretty sure I remember Michael Barnes, the singer from Red, saying that this was his favorite, I'm pretty sure, and the title seemed so interesting to me. It didn't really sound like Red to me, and so I really did expect a lot out of it, I guess. I mean, it's an opening track, you know, and Red usually has the best opening tracks, we all know this. You all know this if you're a Red fan, which you probably are if you're watching this. The first thing, though, that I noticed about Step Inside was how the verse sounded just like Starset, because the way the electronics are used sounds just like something Starset would have done on Vessels, which makes sense because Rob Graves produces for both bands, and so I think Rob Graves has been hanging out with Starset a little too much because Starset is leaking into Red on this album in general. I don't really have a problem with that though, because I love Starset too, but it is kind of funny to observe that. The chorus is probably the best part about Step Inside. It's just so aggressive and everything, but it really did surprise me how many synths were in this track, because there were tons of synthesizers, and it was almost kind of hard to hear the guitar line because of that. But it still managed to sound intense and everything. There's a lot of effects on Michael's voice, and it almost makes it hard to hear what he's saying, but it's still a good track nonetheless, and the chorus has gotten stuck in my head 1,000 times today, so there's that also. Track 2 is Still Alive. This was a pretty good choice for a single overall. I think it's more of a mainstream hard rock song, you know. The guitars are probably the best thing about this track though, especially the creative, really hard-rocking outro. Michael's vocals in the second verse are very passionate and emotional. Man though, I really wish the outro riff would have shown up more on the song, because it's such a treat, you know? It's I really think it's so creative. I wish it would have been in more parts in the song, but you know, it's whatever. Track 3 is Losing Control, and this was definitely my favorite out of the singles. It was a lot of people's favorite out of the singles, so that said something, you know. It's probably because it sounds the most like Red out of all the singles. Honestly, the symphonic elements in this one are so dramatic. It's probably the most, one of the most dramatic Red songs ever. The chorus is just so huge, and the guitars are very low-tuned. The lyrics are a little bit simplistic in this song, but I think that they feel pretty genuine because of how emotional Michael sounds in the song. It's a very creative song, it's very intense, it's very heavy, and it's definitely a standout track, and it's still one of my favorites. Now track 4 is Gone, which is the title track. This song is one that I didn't want to review, and I didn't end up reviewing even though everyone else was, because I didn't really like it when I heard it. This track has grown on me probably the most out of any song on this album, honestly. I'm really glad they actually did release it as a single, because it allowed it to grow on people, you know, and people got used to it over time. I think that my favorite thing though about this track, the intro, with the synths and the very straightforward, steady rhythm. Post-chorus is probably my least favorite part of the song, with the techno bits and the auto-tune and the go-on. Anyway, the lyrics are so emotional, and it really does add to the song. The big chorus just kind of makes up for all the weird bits in the song, I guess, and it is a very good track. So track 5 is Coming Apart, and this ballad's pretty unique for Red. Something about its very light atmosphere reminds me of one of the softer tracks, like The Best Is Yet to Come, or maybe even Not Alone a little bit, off of Until We Have Faces. The very subtle touch of violins and brass in the chorus adds so much to the song, and even though I have to be kind of in like a more calm, quiet mood to really enjoy this song thoroughly, I mean, I still do appreciate that they achieved the unique mood that they strived for with this one. It seems like the most Christian song on here too when it comes to the lyrical content. Track 6 is Unstoppable, which is a Sia cover. Why'd you have to do this to me, Red? No, just kidding. Okay. This cover, in all seriousness, really does take away from the album, in my mind. A lot of people didn't like it. I didn't like it. I started very much worrying for the album when I heard the preview of this song. It begins the second half of the album awkwardly with its very horrible, very cliche, cheesy lyrics that Red would never write on their own. And it's very buzzy, messy, overproduction. To be fair, the original song is atrocious in my mind, and so I do applaud Red for making it sound halfway decent. It really does throw me off course, especially when the bridge in this song hits and the electronics sound almost video game-ish, and it doesn't even like go along with the timing of the song, and it's like, what? Honestly, I don't like a single thing about Unstoppable. I really do feel bad for Red if their label forced them to cover this. It doesn't sound like Red, it doesn't fit, it doesn't make sense, and it's horrible. Next, now we have track 7, which is Fracture, and this is where you can tell already the second half of this album, minus Unstoppable of course, is going to be the stronger part of the album compared to the first half of the album. And something about this song reminds me of that one song by Nothing More Sex and Lies. I might put the songs up and compare their beginnings because they sound almost alike. This is actually the Twins' favorite song off of the album, and I can see why. It's probably the most classic Red sounding song on the album, and it really does remind me of old Red, like Innocence and Instinct Red, you know? It's still got some electronics and everything, but it's still very guitar driven and intense. The chorus does remind me slightly of Shadow and Soul, which makes this song even better, I think. The lyrics are kind of meh, I think. There aren't that many lyrics in this song, and the lyrics that are in there are just kind of, I guess, okay. Instrumentally, it's one of the best on the album. We'll see soon that the best tracks are the last 4 tracks on the album. Track 8 is Chasing Your Echo. And now we're getting into the very best material on the album. I love the steady timing change in the verse. It threw me off guard for a second, but it's brilliantly executed. And really, it's kind of the best thing they could have done with the verse in this song. The chorus is pretty good. I don't know if I'd call it great, but it definitely is pretty good. Overall, it has some of the best guitar work on the album and some of the most memorable parts on this whole album. It has kind of an eerie feeling to it, which is cool, especially coming out of the first chorus. There's like background, like talking, and it just sounds very creepy for a second there. It's really cool, and it fits with the title too, because you think of like, I don't know, when I think of like a title like Chasing Your Echo, I'm gonna think of like a tunnel or something, or some dark like hallway where voices are echoing. I don't know, like they kind of give off that vibe. And the bridge is definitely classic Red all the way. It goes back to like something like Let Go with all the screaming in the bridge, you know. Track 9 is AI, and this was one of the songs I actually heard like the day before the album dropped, and this got me excited, like even more excited for the album to come out. The beginning of the song is very Evanescence-like with the pianos and everything. This track is focused more on piano and electronics in the verse, it seems, but then there's a very like Innocence and Instinct type chorus. But something I noticed about AI, the way Michael pronounces the word breaking is actually really cool to me. Like, I don't know, this is one of my favorite tracks for sure. It just seems like there's a lot of emotion packed into this song. and this song and Fracture both sound the most like older Red on this album. Okay, now we move on to track 10, the closing track on the standard edition, Singularity. And this track definitely gave me huge Muse vibes the second it started, because Michael's singing a very Matt Bellamy type melody, and there are these keyboards playing up and down the scales, you know, just like how Muse does in like a lot of their songs. And this seems to be a very apocalyptic song from the lyrics, and maybe a song about like robotic society. And the chorus has Michael singing this very dramatic falsetto, also like Matt Bellamy. Also with like these building instrumentals, and it honestly gives this huge arc and this very epic feeling to it, which is something a closing track really should do, and I honestly think they couldn't have used a better closing track, to be honest. Yeah, the chord progression is beautiful. I really just can't say enough about it. It's definitely my favorite, like by far, my all-time favorite. Not all-time because, you know, the album just came out today, I shouldn't be using phrases like all-time. But anyway, I do think if I still like the song as much as I do now, it could end up being one of my all-time favorite Red songs. This song clocks in at 5 minutes long. Honestly, a lot of the best Red songs are very long like that, and a lot of the songs on this record were shorter, unfortunately. They clocked in around like, I don't know, 3 minutes long, which is very weird for Red, not normal at all. And so, yeah, I did really appreciate that this song was pretty long, and there's so many little segments in it that are just so memorable and awesome in every way possible. And the lyrics, "These final hours," almost had me in tears on the first listen, because it does really make me wonder if this is the last Red album, you know. I know it's the last album on their record contract, I know that for sure, but I mean, Red could easily go the crowdfunding route, you know. I mean, I've seen smaller bands than them actually do it very successfully. And so I know they have enough fans to like fund more albums and everything, and if they just want to go independent, I really do hope they do it that way, because I really don't want Red to stop making albums. They are one of my favorite bands, and they have been for years. But anyway, sorry to go off the tangent there a little bit. Singularity is definitely my favorite off the album. It's a beautiful song, and I also really love how at the end they make Michael's voice very robotic. It's kind of a smooth transition into like more effects and effects and effects being layered on him, and it's supposed to, I think, represent like, I guess, him like transforming from like an emotional human being to like a very robotic creature with no feelings, you know. And now we briefly talk about track 11 and track 12. Track 11 is The Mask Slips Away, and this one really is one of my favorites, actually. I really wish they would have put it on the album. It's very beautiful and it's very unique. It's really acoustic guitar driven, and it very much sounds like a classic Red ballad, so I really do love it. And then track 12 is Still Alive, Looking for a Reason, and this is kind of an acoustic version of Still Alive. It's more stripped down. It's basically what they did with Nothing and Everything and Already Over Part 2, so this is not new for Red at all. I'm really glad that they did put this on the deluxe edition, actually. I don't really care for it that much, though. I don't know. This one is a little too drastic, I think. It doesn't sound anything like Still Alive. I really do think it sounds quite like K-Love. I don't know. So that is a little bit annoying to me, I guess, because I'm not a fan of K-Love. So overall, I could already tell last night, this is gonna grow on me. I can tell that, like, I couldn't really take in everything that was in this album. There's lots of layering, lots of really produced kind of sounds on here, and you're not gonna catch everything on first listen. You're just not. Even though I guess it's one of my least favorite Red albums, it's still very good for what it is. It's an experimental, electronic tinged kind of project, you know. I think they pull it off pretty well, even if some of the songs don't really compare to their earlier work when it comes to like memorableness and everything. Is that a word, memorableness? I would have to give it a moderate 8 out of 10. And so I'm still thinking it might grow on me a little bit, because every single listen it's getting better, you know? And so, yeah, this really is one of my favorite albums of the year so far. And so, yeah, I'm really happy with it. Let me know what you thought about this album in the comments. And so, thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next video.